Again, it's Francis Reeve Esquire. That's ESQ, which means you're an attorney.
It does.
And you're an author, right?
I am, yes.
And people can find out more about you on some of the work that you parentyourparents.com.
Correct. Parentyourparents.com.
Right.
It's true.
And even when we say that, parent your parents, when you're 20, you don't quite get it.
No.
When you're 40, it's getting a little clearer.
Yeah.
When you as soon as I turn 60, I'll have a better perception about what that means.
I didn't have to turn 60. Mom and Dad were old. Dad was an older father. So, Mom was 24, but Pop was 30.
Oh, wow.
So when he turned 80, I was, just a little under 50. And then when he turned 90, I was a little under 60.
All right. So you learned a lot of lessons in that whole time.
Not only that, but when he turned 90, it was like, wow.
People are going 90.
No, I have a whole nother 30 years. That's a whole nother life when you think about it.
And I think that's one of the things we can touch on. People sometimes say, well, when did people retire? So there are several segments of retiring. You got to retire from work.
Right.
And then you have 5 or 10 years, if you're really lucky,
of
feeling pretty good. And then if you live long and you start being able to do a little bit less and a little bit less.
Right.
There was a report the other day that said people that are born today, half the people are going to live till they're 100, right?
At least half, yeah. And we think that the person who's living till 150 is walking this planet. 150.
Nah.
1.5 centuries.
When you think about that, it was like turtles used to do that. Tortoises, not turtles. Tortoises used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Some still can, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are. The end of the year is close by. This might be a good time for you to talk about wills and trust, because lots of times people use January 1st as this point in which it's time to do things. Well, the reality is it's December, whatever it is now, right? And we have a couple weeks to be able to start to put together a plan. And maybe we can start with most people don't want to put together a living plan, right? But what are some of the things they should start off with, all right? Just pretend you just want to do a summary of your life and where you want it to be as far as how you want your children and your family to be. So what are some things people should look at?
Okay, so are we talking specifically in the estate area?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start there, because I also think it's really important.
Because that's what you do. You help people plan their estates and you take care of seniors.
I do. I take care of seniors, but I also, as I take care of them, I have a client right now whose husband has dementia and is getting worse and worse and worse. And now I'm worried about her, because so often the caretaker in a case like that, her stress level is out the wazoo. And so and she's in her 70s, he's in his mid 80s, and she is having all these guilt issues in putting him into a nursing home, which is where he needs to be, because he can no longer bathe. She has to help him with the toileting. So I'm huge with some of my clients on that. Okay.
So how do you, and I understand that, all right, personally. And then you go, well, how do you go from, I want to take care of them, to, wait a minute, I have children, I have a wife, I have a life to live. And that stress, all right, it's a killer.
It's a killer.
All right.
It's a killer.
So how do you, when you're talking with somebody like that, what's the conversation that takes place before we start going over these other things?
Okay, well, the first conversation is, do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a health surrogacy? Do you have, is all his money distributed? I mean, has he made a will, or do you have a trust in which, because and this happens so often more with women than with men. Men don't seem to care about what happened.
Earlier.
No, they don't care what happens to their wife. Yeah, stick her in there. So we lawyers laugh about it every time we have a female client. And the lawyer I work with, Andrew Bellinson, on Medicaid and Medicare issues with my clients, he always says to them, I do this a lot, and your husband would never be this nice to you, because we know what the end result is. But it is a hard conversation to have because for whatever reason, women feel guilty about putting their husbands into a nursing home. And I actually had a really long chat with her because we got her into Medicaid and a Medicaid waiver for him. So all of that's taken care of, and her assets are fine because in Florida, the spouse can refuse to be considered for Medicaid. But now she can't find anyone who speaks English to take care of him. So even though we've gone through all that with her, she still can't leave him. And so, I mean, the bad news is I can't put my foot down and go, leave him, just put him in there. Instead, and this is hard for me. I know you know this, to be nice and calm. And I say, what you have to do is think about what's best for him. He is not getting all the care he needs.
That's for you.
He is.
Now that's a surprise. Speaking of that,
one of my clients, in fact.
I want to say hi to George Gonzalez. He says, and we'll get on this. Amy Livergood Donner's watching. And so George, and we're going to get on the two things. How do you deal with irresponsible people that won't plan anything? And then they leaves the family to deal with those issues. So going back to your experience.
Now that my client just called. Sorry, fans. So what I do is I talk to her about how much easier it's going to be for him not to have her toileting him.
Instead of the other way around, which is too much stress on you, what's going to happen?
Right. Do you think he really wants this? Whereas you can go to a nursing home and you can visit with him. You can have people come and walk with him. And when you leave, you know that in 3 or 4 minutes, he'll forget you were there, but you feel better. And he knows you're going to come in a couple of days or the next week. Like the woman I visit she's not in a nursing home, but in an assisted living facility. And she has no one as well. Her daughter died. Her husband died. I mean, she looks forward to my visit. I go once a week. And, she's so grateful that somebody comes. And it's not that she doesn't survive the rest of the time, but talk about a woman also. She was not prepared. She did not have a power of attorney. She did not have a health surrogacy. And part of the whole power of attorney, health surrogacy, and will issue is it means you are coming face to face with your own death, which is always a difficult thing to talk about. But the truth is, if it's a health surrogacy or a power of attorney, it doesn't mean that's because you're going to die. It means you could be in the hospital unconscious, and whoever your power of attorney is can come in and say, all right, I can sign this. And then if you need to be operated on, or God forbid, they have to take a finger off or whatever has to happen, your health surrogate can come right in and say, yes, this is what he wants.
Let's say that somebody has a husband and wife, and the husband has a stroke, and he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
And he's still alive, but he's obviously not competent.
Right.
What has to happen if there's no prior paperwork done for the wife to be in control of whatever she needs to be?
I have a client. We're going through that now.
Let's hear about it.
Wow. I have really bad news for you. It's a guardianship.
And who?
Guardianship.
By who? Who appoints
the court?
That? A court.
A court. Unless you have a pre-need guardian signed, the court appoints him.
A third party.
Yeah. And not all guardians are the ones on your right shoulder. You have the good one and the bad one. I've seen both kinds. And the problem with guardians is they have power over the purse.
So a couple, if they didn't prepare anything, and he had assets or whatever it was, all right, and court, she has to hire an attorney, go to court a day, a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months. A guardian gets appointed who charges a bunch of money. Right.
He hires a law firm to take care of your estate.
Yes. Okay. And who where's the guardian come in? Or is that law firm?
No,
Or is that
the
a separate
guardian
place?
hires the law firm and they act for the guardian. So you have a guardian and they come off what the courts call the wheel. Unless you have someone that both attorneys can agree on, good luck. At any rate, unless you
And
have
they all get paid.
yeah, the guardian the least. And it's probably the hardest job. But if you were the one who needed the guardian, Susan, that's your wife, right? Susan would have no say at all. I mean,
We're going to take care of it, Susan. Don't worry.
hurry, Susan.
So it can get complicated pretty quickly.
And expensive. It's much more expensive to go that route than it is to just spend the $5,000. And that's, sort of a base figure for a durable power of attorney, your health surrogacy, and a will or a trust, depending on what's best for you. Because if you have, there are all sorts of instruments you can sign. For instance, if you have stock, a stock account, IRA, annuities, you can sign instruments that say pay on death, a POD it's called, or a TOD, transfer on death. So for instance, you have a bunch of stock accounts and all of a sudden you have this stroke. Here's all this money, but Susan's only going to be able to get it when you die. In the meantime, your guardian's going to be dealing with that money.
And I think I shared this. It was with my father and his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I'll bet it took 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. And in the middle of it, she transferred the guardianship to a relative.
How could she do that?
Wait.
The lawyers? Her lawyers?
To her son, who then there was an arrest warrant out for him.
Oh my gosh.
And listen, folks.
You know better than anyone, Michael.
It is a disaster.
It is a disaster.
And he was alive. All right. Yeah. If he was dead, it might have been a little different. But because there were ongoing time, energy, money in taking care of him. All right.
How much do you remember how much your legal fees were, more or less?
A lot. A lot. Tens of thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
Tens of thousands, and went on for so long. The stress was so miserable. It was really high, right? And what did it for me, all right, which was, and it wasn't so much at that point for him. Mm-hmm. It was for me and my family, all right? When my children complained about him, that was the last day. And who knows how long they were internalizing that.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, at one point we were trying to give him help him take a shower. He grabbed her and wouldn't let go.
Oh my God.
Imagine that. Grabbed her, would not let her go.
Oh my God.
Then it became physical.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Oh
and that's all because we were trying to do it. All right.
Yeah.
And you can't do all that stuff.
You can't. Right? No, you can't. You have to. Yesterday, I was with one of my favorite clients. We were doing an assessment for his long-term care.
That's for you.
Well, once I'm here, they all call. We were doing an assessment for his long-term care. And in the middle of it, he had to go to the bathroom. And so his caretaker, who was with him, and it was so funny because the caretaker was just talking about the toileting issues, that they've gotten worse, et cetera, et cetera. So the caretaker took him into the men's room, to the bathroom, and I heard all this, told him to sit down, bop. And then he came back out and said, "Ma'am, just give me a minute and I'll come back to you." In that 30 seconds, my client had once again gotten up and just watered the bathroom floor. And of course, the caretaker lost it. I told you to sit down. It's just like we've discussed this a couple times with you and your dad. That's why if you're not getting paid for it, in my opinion, it's even worse. In this case, he's getting paid for it, but it's still not easy. I mean, it's never easy.
Yes. So let's get back before our ADD gets away with us. Right. So if somebody, in a simplistic way, what would be some things they could start writing down so they can get to a point? Let's say they can't do it all at one time. They just not ready to face it. So what are some of the things they should jot down?
The first thing you have to decide is who your power of attorney is going to be. And I always suggest 2 people. Either a primary, or if you have 2 kids, they both are. It's a difference between or and in the document. And if you have 2 who are equal, then they have to agree. So I always prefer one who is the power of attorney, and if they can't serve, then a second person. And I think a second person is very important. So that's the first thing. And everybody, for the most part, puts their kids down. Or a relative, and I don't necessarily think that's a great idea, especially in Florida, because the minute you sign your power of attorney, it can be used. So and it's the family members and trusted professionals who are the most likely to do harm to the senior. So this is anecdotal. I have not done a research on it, but anecdotally, when I say, well, do you trust your child? Well, sort of. Have my POA with me. And then my second on that DPOA is my goddaughter. She's, all of 31. I mean, both are in their 30s. So they're a lot younger than I am. And both are really smart people. And on my house surrogacy, I have my goddaughter because she lives in Miami as a primary, and then my nephew as a secondary. Because here's the other really hard thing to do under that health surrogacy. And I just had this experience last week. When you have a health surrogacy, that means you can pull the plug or you can add a feeding tube. Adding a feeding tube has been scientifically proven to be nothing more than a slow death. But some people can simply not digest the idea of not doing everything they can, like the Terry Schiavo case. I mean, how long was she on that? And this woman, this fabulous woman who'd been a volunteer for this person who had no one, she sort of adopted her through the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. She adopted her at the beginning of COVID, and November 23rd, she died. But the 2 weeks before that, when she was in the hospital, she was aspirating, which is where your food comes back up and goes into the lungs. And they were saying, well, we think we're going to have to do a feeding tube. We think we're going to. And I said, Christina, what's in that health surrogacy? And she says, well, I know she doesn't want one, but I can't. And it is, if I know Lindsay my goddaughter would have a really hard time saying, well, I know she's brain dead, but I want to kill her. I mean, it's a much bigger responsibility than you think it is. But the person like me, you want that in place. Yes, it's difficult for you, have a shot of tequila and then, maybe you'll think straight, so
tough decisions.
It's so tough.
And so part of that is obviously to start planning that out in the head so you don't have to go back and do it.
Well, and also you want to do it when you're younger, because, the closer you get to a possible death, the harder it is to make these decisions. I mean, you see it all the time. All the research bears that out.
So it'd be like your book of protocols. If this happens, this is what we want to occur. And my father lived for 15 years after the stroke.
Wow.
5 years of it was tough. And when he could walk, and he was one arm like this, but it was really tough. And he still had a very sharp tongue, right? And I was always afraid of him falling. And why not?
Right.
And the day, God forgive me, the day he fell and he couldn't walk anymore because of some stuff, I was happy, all right, that he'd be in a wheelchair.
Oh, because you could control him a
Yeah,
little
then
bit.
I didn't have to worry
Yeah.
about whether he was going to fall,
Well,
right?
there's no reason to ask God for forgiveness. I
Yes.
mean,
So, and when that happens, you start realizing we're just people, right? And all these are really tough decisions, all right? So, if there's a book of protocol, this is what I want, all right? And just start writing down those people and that are important
and
to
think
you,
really
right?
hard about it. Yeah. Because as you know, Michael, well, first of all, you were hands-on with your father the whole time, despite his girlfriend.
Yes.
I mean, that alone is stressful. So you already have seen a possible future, which is what I saw with my mother with dementia. I mean, when your parent gets dementia, the first thing you think is, ruh-roh, I have half her genes. I mean, I have half her genes. Now, my father didn't have dementia, so I'm sort of praying, but it's a crapshoot.
But back then, the owner of one of the large nursing home facilities said to me, he belongs in a facility.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to see. And he was right, right?
Yeah.
And we each did what we thought was the right thing. And when it became out of control, all right,
Yeah.
couldn't do it anymore, so that's it. One thing he hated, when he had him in the hospital one of the times, we wheeled him in the wheelchair into the walk-in shower at the hospital. My brother and I grabbed the shower to try to give him a shower in the wheelchair. He actually grabbed that away from us,
Oh,
all right,
no.
and twisted our wrists hard enough to where we had to let loose, all right?
Oh my gosh, he was strong.
He was strong.
Wow.
And so you have all this stuff that you don't think is going to happen, right? But it does.
It
right?
does.
So what are some things that people can do just in a simple way to sit down over the holidays here, which are about to be upon us,
Right.
so they can start putting together a plan?
Well, I mean, I think, this is a big family time from Thanksgiving to Christmas and Hanukkah. It's a big family time. And even if it's on Zoom or however we're doing it this year, I think you look at those family members and you think to yourself, just be very honest with yourself about these family members. Are any of these people I would trust to take care of me when I can no longer take care of myself? Because a lot of kids today do not think it's their duty to do that here in the United States. In other cultures, yes, but not here in the United States. They sort of seem to think it's okay. We'll just stick them in a home. And so that's the first thing. The second thing you have to do is think about how your parents died, how old they were when they died, and what was so difficult for you when they died. Because then you'll know, I mean, odds are you're going to follow a lot of that same path. I mean, I prefer to die like my father did versus my mother, but nevertheless, I know what the two paths are. And so now is a good time to reflect forward and reflect backward. When you were your kid's age, what did you think of your parents? The other thing you want to do right now, and to me, this is huge. If you have an issue with one of your parents, you have got to get over it. And you might need a third-party help. You might need third-party help. But here's the bottom line. They're your parents. At the minimum, they gave you life. At the minimum. And it took me a very long time to get over my mother and my relationship. To get over our relationship, I had to get over myself. And when I did that, it was without a doubt the most rewarding thing I'd ever done for our relationship. Now, Mom didn't change. I just accepted her a little better. And I feel sorry for people who had to bear my wrath when Mom was mistreated, because I was a glass-eating bitch from hell. I mean, I took no prisoners and I'm a warrior. I mean, and of course, Mother appreciated it. But so now my father and I were always had a great relationship. But if you allow a person who you were supposed to love to die, you're the only one who's going to suffer. And I think I write about that all the time. And when it comes to the health surrogacy, the reason I talk about how hard it is to make those decisions is because you want to look out at your family again, or your close friends, the people who you know and love during this season, and think who among them is strong enough to make that really hard decision. And I'll tell you a cute story about my mother. She had 3 children. I'm the oldest, a sister and a brother. So when we were doing her living will, she called me Franny. She said, well, Franny, you're not going to be the one. She goes, you'd kill me in a New York second. I mean, she says, and Matt, my brother, he could never pull the plug. So whichever way Nancy, the middle child, whichever way Nancy goes is what you all do. So, but those are important things. In a way, Mom was right. I'm much more, that's, I think, why I'm a lawyer, is because I can detach myself a little bit and think about the big picture and the logic behind it. And so I think that's a really important thing to do. And then I think we have to get over this idea. Look, if you're an elder person and you're listening to this, I don't want you to talk to your kids about the celebration of life you want to have after you die. My suggestion is celebrate it while you're alive. I mean, don't we all want to hear how fabulous we are? It's the only time they only say fabulous things about you, right?
After you're gone.
After you're gone.
So there are lots of people that have a hard time letting go. We used to have a lot of dogs, and I always knew every dog was the same. It was always $1,500 at the end. and there was
triple that for humans.
We had this cat. We had him in the house for a couple of years. Then he left. 12 years later, he came back, and he had a little problem. Then we took care of it, right? And then he came back, and he had this growth. So I took him now the cat is 15 years old, right?
Uh-huh.
I take him to the surgeon. They remove the tumor, right? And it grows back faster. Me, I still wanted to do it again. But listen, I got a hard time throwing away old plants that I pull out of the ground.
Your poor cat.
So there are lots of people that they have these life issues about how far to go with that. But what's important, as you pointed out, is that if you have an elderly person or a person at home that is incapacitated, right, and you can't take care of them, all right, somebody has to take care of them.
Somebody has to take care of them. Somebody has to take care of them.
And so part of that is go to the facility. I wanted to share something that years ago happened, and maybe I already shared it. So after my father had the stroke, we dragged him down to Miami, got an ambulance, brought him down here. Right? I'm sure I told you. And he's laying in bed at the local hospital. He's laying on his side, and I go, Grant, he's starting to talk. He had not eaten for 5 days, wasn't moving. He looks at me, my father, you? And I said, oh, I know what's coming. Sure? And I go, here it goes. Are fat.
Oh, no.
Swear to you. And I go, hey,
I'm
welcome
sure
home.
You told me that.
Welcome home, Ron. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Right? So there's a time at which your elderly parent or your parent is going to start saying stupid things.
Right. Or inappropriate.
Right. And that's all the time. And one other thing along that line. So father's in a wheelchair in a nursing home at the end. That's 10 years difference from the first to there. And so my brother gets a phone call from a friend. He says, you can't believe what happened. I'm visiting his parents in a nursing home, and some guy in a wheelchair goes over to him. You know what he said? You sure are fat, to the guy. He says, that's my father.
Oh my gosh. Gosh.
So he likes saying that, because they were, anyway, for whatever the multiple reasons are. So there's enough experiences to where people can look back,
right,
and look forward, all right? And once you start laying this foundation of, this is what I want to happen, it just becomes a closed chapter. Right. And you go, okay, it's done. When we decided when my father was going to die, this is what we're going to do. It was this and this and this. And it was easy.
Right.
And we were interviewing David Pearson. He was in the White House when John Kennedy died.
Oh, yeah.
And so he said, Michael, we didn't know what to do. So somebody brought down the protocol that was done when Abraham Lincoln died. That's what they went to. This is what we do.
Wow.
They go like this, and it's easy to do that. All right.
Yeah.
So people need to start getting that in line. And years ago, when Susan and I, maybe 20, I said, maybe go to the cemetery. Lady comes over, to try to sell us some stuff. And after about 5 minutes, she goes, "You guys aren't ready." I said, "You're right." So there's a point at which you need to do those things.
You have to decide whether you're going to be cremated or buried, whether you're going to going to donate organs. I just had another experience again last week. And at first a woman had said, "Oh yeah, I think if anyone wants mom's organs, I think she'd take them." I said, "Okay, I'll put it in." And then a week later she goes, "Well, mom never liked doctors." And I said, I mean, this is an intelligent woman. I shouldn't have said this. I said, "Well, she'll be dead when they take them out." And she did not like that. I mean, the daughter didn't like that, And so I'm like, okay, Frances, you have to remember that just because you talk about death all the time doesn't mean everybody else talks about death all the time.
And it's as much it's the living aspect of it. Listen, this is what we want to happen. We do so many things. We plan where we're going to move. We plan where the kids are going to go to school. You plan your religious activities, your sports activities. You plan when the homework's going to get done. You're going to plan on doing all this stuff. And the thing that causes the most grief is Dad, Mom died suddenly, and we don't know what to do.
Right. Well, and look, it's always these younger guys. Prince died without a will. At this point, I think there are 6 kids, 6 biological children who the estate will finally go to. If there's an estate left by the time.
Why might this is good? Why might there not be anything left, Frances, the attorney?
Well, because some very smart lawyers
That's
get involved. Yeah,
and as Tommy pointed out, the
president and the founder of Zappos, right, Tommy? Mm-hmm. What was his name? David or yeah.
By the way, I get my shoes from Zappos. You know what I really like about that? I don't have to shop. What I do last time was that good enough, and do you have it? And go ahead and send it.
Yeah, I'm just as bad. No, I have the brands I like, and so I sign up for them. And then when they have a sale, that's when I buy them. And I buy them in different colors. What do I care?
Speaking of colors, this is not coordinated.
Yes, it is, Susan. This is coordinated.
The colors are coordinated, but we didn't coordinate between us.
No, Susan, he's lying.
I've only worn this shirt 3 times, I think.
It's a great shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Really like it, and I like the inside of the collar.
Bob Powers, who does the show here, he was wearing a purple shirt yesterday, and I said, I have one of those at home. He says, I like it. I said, tomorrow I'm going to be wearing the purple shirt. It's bold for me to do that.
It is. I love it, though. Thanks. I think you should do more bold colors.
Well, yeah. You know what? All new shirts. All right.
Susan, that's your cue.
Yes. So parentyourparents.com. People can find you there.
Right.
They can read all about you. Right. And I know you're working on some other things that you want to write. You write a regular column with us.
Right.
But tell us about your book that you're putting out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm really having fun with this book. Okay. It's called The 2-Minute Warning.
We get that. 2-minute warning.
It's
got 2 minutes left in the game, which really means there's 25 minutes left in the football game.
Right. All you had to do was watch the Ravens and the Steelers yesterday. Thank God it was only 10 because I'm a Ravens fan. Purple, and they lost. So.
Hey. Okay, hey, listen. Oh, Christian Rosa Gonzalez. Hey there. She does a show here frequently. Former Miami Beach commissioner. And she ran for Congress, and she's really outspoken. And Rush Abdullah.
An outspoken woman? You allow those on your show?
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Christina, we have to meet.
So last week or the week before, we had an anesthesiologist. Part of her practice includes injecting amnion, which is a placenta product, stem cells into Christian's back. All right. And I think she's feeling well. They had some left over, so I did that. Right. And they put it back there. I was feeling rather bold.
What is a placenta?
Feeling rather bold, so I did my shirt. That will be the last time that I do that. So friends, somebody sent it over with tattoos to cover my fatness. So I get these phone calls. Don't ever do that again. So there are only a few people that have that. Don't distribute it. Right?
I want to see it.
No, you don't want to see it.
Yes,
right?
I do.
No. So parent your parents. So let's go back to your book, and it's called 2 Minute Warning.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, it's really about how it's just like I said, when Dad turned 90, I wasn't even 60 yet. And I realized that I had at least 30 more years, maybe more, because, Dad was 90, Mom was 88. No, Mom was at that point 84. She died at 88. And so the bottom line is, wow, I have this whole other chapter. Well, first of all, you have to worry a little bit about the money aspect of it, right? And so you've got to get that in order.
Jeffrey, my son, Lauren, they make a lot of money.
Well, the good news, I don't have any children, but I will say I did go out and get long-term care because I had no children. So I didn't want to, I have a lot of clients who are all by themselves, and it saddens me. So I will be all by myself, but I'll have those paid people around me. So then it's fine.
Wait, when my father had the stroke, I went out and I never thought about it. I went out and I got long-term care.
Good for you.
At this point, 20 plus years ago. Yeah, more or less. And I went to really happy. All the Millers have it, all right? Because I started seeing how much money and time and energy and stress it is, all right? Because the last thing I want to do is stress out my wife, all right? Or my kids, because I don't want them to hate me. Right?
Yeah.
Because that is around the corner when you start doing that.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what happens. The resentment. We discussed that one time.
Yes.
And for me, I mean, I consider myself one of the luckiest ladies, girls, females in the world, because even though you're not supposed to do this, I keep doing something new. And when I took Mom and Dad through their seniorhood, and this insurance company tried to take them and ended up paying them $15,000 instead, that was my wake-up call. And so for me, helping seniors, and I don't help seniors just by helping them in the crosswalk, although I promise you I do that, especially on Coral Way, because nobody looks at those crosswalks on Coral Way. But it's my passion. I find that I am much more patient with them than I am with those bratty little kids who come in. When you're in Starbucks and they come in those double rollers, and somehow or another, we're supposed to be the Red Sea and part for these little spoiled children.
Is she expressive or what? And her book, all right, 2 Minute Warning is going to be like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
No.
So give us an idea. We're going to push her a little bit here. When are you going to publish it? When is it going to be?
Well,
done?
I'm on the 3rd draft right now.
Okay.
So I probably have another 6 to 7 months before I start looking for an agent. So agents out there, hi, I'm creating your platform for you with Michael.
Yeah. So, and speaking of drafts, when my son graduated from WashU with his MBA and whatever it was, we said, okay, let's put together our experiences. My wife and I go up and we put together from the time we got in until he graduated, and there were only 300 students that had graduate classes.
Wow!
So I wound up in the stands, and he was like as close as Tommy is. So I got these great pictures. My wife was on the other side. We had videos. We put this whole thing together, and I said, okay, now let's put together from when he was born until he went to graduate school. So we had this whole thing from the day he was born until he finished graduate school. The joke around the office: this is the last draft. This is the last one. You were wondering what the title was. This is
the last. Oh, I know.
All right. So you're going to get to a point. You're going to say, "Hey,
this is it."
All right. And
I've got to start doing it. No, what's really great about writing this book is I get constructive critiques or suggestions. Like one of them was, you only have men. I talk about Winston Churchill and all he did as a senior, and I thought about Gloria Steinem. do you know she's 86?
Mazel tov. Wow.
Exactly. And at 71, she started, which was 11 years ago, right? So, yeah, 86, 15 years ago. At 15 years ago, she started Women's Media Association. For whatever reason, I think of Gloria Steinem as maybe 70 at the most. She married for the first time at 66. She married Christian Bale's father,
Really?
David Bale. Yeah. And she was always going to be single, and she was a feminist galore. But then when I started looking at her, I realized how much of it came after she was 60. I mean, look, she has lived another 26 years.
So we have hope. As soon as I reach 60, I'll have that other.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm there.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're always fun to be with. All right. Congratulations. You keep working on your book. All right. And at some point, you're going to say, all right, guys, this is it. All right?
I know.
This
I promise.
is the last
I
one.
will. I will.
This is the last one.
This is good.
All right? So again, what I'd like you to do is look into the camera right over there and tell some little young person out there, whatever that age is young, about life and about looking forward.
Well, Tommy.
Speaking of that, it's Tommy's birthday tomorrow. All right, tomorrow,
Yes,
Friday.
and
He's got both digits turning tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
And it's a big birthday.
Yeah, the big birthday. All right.
He
So
might still double his years. So he is sort of at that cuspy moment, but he has children. So it's an amazingly good time to get your life in order, Tommy. First, you have to have that DPOA. And here's the great news about all of these things. You can change them, Tommy, are you married?
No.
Okay. So if you do get married,
Not going to happen.
but if you do get married, you can change the DPOA. You can change the will. You can change the trust. I think it's a great time. It's like your it's the mid of what you could be. And so it's a really great time to assess who you are, what you are, where you want to be. And although I have to say, Tommy has a really great time in the studio.
he does. All right. And it's getting better all the time. By the way, he's a great sports enthusiast. All right. He'll give you odds on a lot of the games. He's doing pretty good on it. All right. What's your percentage right now? 63%.
Wow, 63%.
Tommy does a show by himself and with David Winker. I saw Tommy over at Duffy's, his favorite place on 57th Avenue, giving the odds over there. He looked like the real sports guy, waiting for him to put on that baseball hat backwards and give us the odds. All right.
He has the look.
All right. He does.
Yeah,
Yes.
he totally has the look.
So I'm going to take his fingers. I'm going to start telling people, and they're going to think that I'm pretty smart. Now, tennis is what they do out of this 300 long foot field with these guys with the big things.
Yeah.
By the way, you used to be tennis ballerina.
Yes.
Ballerina.
Mhm.
What else have you done? Yes, lawyer. all right,
Lawyer.
candlestick maker. All right.
I've jumped out of airplanes.
Oh, jumped out of airplanes. And she's
Trapeze.
a great attorney, can help you with your estate planning. Folks, over the next couple of weeks, write down the people in your life that you want
You're
to
right, Mike.
have taken care of you, all right, and how you want to leave your estate, and make it easy on them, all right? And this is it. All right, we're going to sign off. All right.
We're going to sign off.
We're going to sign off, and I want to thank our guest today, Francis Reaves, Esquire, parentyourparents.com. You can find that, or at communitynewspapers.com. I want to thank you for joining us at Live with Miami's Community News. Tommy, thank you very much, and folks, have a great day.
Happy birthday.
See ya.